I've helped over 200 people after ACL surgery get back to sports. And the ones who are still stuck at 12 months post-op or more, they're making the same 3 mistakes. Now, I'll walk you through all 3 today. But the third one is the most important, and I don't want you to miss it, so stick around for that. You've likely done everything they told you to do. You know about building stronger quads. You know about building stronger hamstrings. You probably know that you should test your knee before getting back to sports. But you're still here. And I don't mean it in a way to make you feel bad, because it's likely not your fault. You're still here because you're still stuck at a point where you want to get back to sports, but you don't know how. And that's what I want to help you in this video. Now, before we get into it, I want you to think about this one question. What if the number you've been using to track your progress has been wrong this whole time? Hi, my name is Josh Herwanto, a physical therapist who specializes in ACL rehab and returning to sports. And I've helped over 200 people overcome this exact stage. So let's get into the video. If you've been rehabbing your ACL for more than 12 months, you probably know you should test your strength. Like maybe you're familiar with the 90% or 95% symmetry. But here's the problem. Being strong is not the same as being ready for sports. Think about it this way. If you've been measuring your strength based on a machine, so let's say a leg extension machine, the movement that you're doing is very controlled, right? You're seated and strapped in one position, you're moving in one direction, pushing as hard as you can. That is a completely different mechanic than sports. Sports is chaotic, unpredictable. We jump off one leg. We're cutting without knowing what to do next. We're responding to different stimulus like opponents, teammates, the ball in different directions. So your knee and your brain has to process all that in probably less than a fraction of a second. So how do we build the second piece? It comes down to plyometrics. You've probably heard plyometrics before. Like, what do you think about when you think about plyometrics? Probably box jumps or something like that, right? But that's completely false, because plyometrics is not about just jumping. Training plyometrics means we're learning how to coordinate your knee, your hip, and your ankle to absorb and produce force quickly. A simple way to think about plyometrics is learning how to leave the ground and come back safely. Most people just kind of skip to the jumping and hoping that that's going to be enough. But really, there's step-by-step progressions to make sure you can actually land first before you can get back to jumping. And here's a simple test you can do right now. Stand on your surgical leg. Do a small hop. You don't have to get super high, but just leave the ground and come back down. Watch yourself in the mirror or film yourself from the front to see what's happening. You should see a couple things. Number one is that your knee's able to drive over your toes. Because if your knee's not driving over its toes, then likely you're compensating with your hips. Secondly, the coordination. So your knee and your hip should be able to coordinate and bend properly at the same time. We should not see a distinct action, like your knee's bending 1 second and then it takes another second for your hip to bend. It should all happen all at the same time. And lastly, your chest and your posture should be nice and tall. Because if you're landing like this, that means the hips, your back, are taking over to compensate. Now, if you can't do all these 3 things yet, then you have no business in trying to progress you to bigger jumps. And adding more weight to your strength exercises is not necessarily going to fix that. So here's what you do about it. You want to start simple. Jump off both legs. So go on a workout bench or a box, something a little bit higher off the ground, maybe 18 inches or 20 inches off the ground. Start by landing on 2 legs. Jump off the box and see if you can land symmetrically. Like, just visually look at, are you landing on one side more than the other? But also look at the 3 things that I talked about. Is your knee able to drive over the toes? Number 2, are your hips bending at the same time as your knee? And lastly, making sure that your posture and chest stays nice and tall. Now you want to do this 2 to 3 times a week, right? Maybe 8 to 12 reps. Just kind of getting repetition, nothing too intense. We're looking for quality more than quantity here. Then, once you can do that, we can progress to jumping off one leg, right? We can also progress the height of the box to challenge it even further. But these are the basic things that are not so fancy that you see on social media that's actually going to help you progress and make you feel confident in your knee. Everyone's hyper-focused on jumping high, jumping far, right? Those things come second, but learning how to control, land properly is step 1. I actually have a full breakdown on plyometrics and how you can implement it to your rehab in my channel, so I'll link that in the description as well. Earlier, I mentioned there's a question to hold on to. What if the number you've been using to track your progress is the wrong number? So this is solution number 2. Here's how most strength testing works after ACL surgery. You test your surgical side, and then you test your healthy side. You compare the 2 numbers and see if it's 95% or 100% symmetry. That sounds pretty familiar, right? But there's a huge problem inside that test. This test only works if the healthy side has been trained properly through the rehab process. So if you imagine you're 12 months post-op, the last 12 months of your rehab, you've only been training or mostly training the surgical side. So what do you think happens to the other side? It's going to get weaker, it's going to get deconditioned because it's been ignored. And this is like most people, right? Like most physios don't tell you to strengthen the other side. So by the time you're doing the strength symmetry, you're comparing a weak leg to another weak leg. So if you've been rehabbing only your surgical side mostly, then comparing it to the healthy side is not a good comparison because you're just comparing a flat tire to another flat tire. So if you imagine that's a car, there's no way we can race with 2 flat tires. So ideally, you would have your strength measured before surgery. But I get that's not the case and not realistic for everybody. So here's what you can do right now. Start training your non-surgical side seriously. This is just to find out what you're actually capable of, because we want to compare your surgical leg to your actual potential. What are you able to produce when you're healthy? So when you do that, one of 2 things will happen. Number 1, you find out that your non-surgical side, so the healthy side, has been weak all along and hasn't been trained. So then your whole symmetry comparison is pretty much not valid at the end, right? So you know you're gonna have to keep working on both sides now. Or number 2, you actually find out that your healthy side is pretty strong. Like if you're pushing 120 pounds on leg extension on the healthy side, then you have a real comparison to go to. Well, either way, now you know. You have a target to go from. Now, once you know your symmetry baseline and your landing mechanics are getting better, there's still one more thing that determines to help you get back to sport. And it's the one that most people get completely wrong. And that's solution number 3. There's a test, a questionnaire actually, called the ACL RSI, Return to Sport Index. It's a simple questionnaire that you can take online for free. Gives you a score out of 100. And if you score less than 77, likely psychologically you're not ready to go back. Whatever that score is, don't feel bad about it, right? Because you want to do this honestly and be truthful to yourself. This is just a data point or a baseline for you to work up towards. So how do we solve confidence, fear, psychological readiness? See, most people think confidence gets better with more time. Like if you wait longer, like the fear will just go away on its own. And that's completely false. How do I know that? Because I speak to people every single week who are 2 years, 3 years, 4 years post-op, and they're still scared to go back to sport. So time is not solving anything. Confidence comes from reps, specifically the movement reps that actually scare you. So the things that you're actually scared to do. We want to do these at a safe level, gradually until our brain, nervous system, stop seeing these movements as a threat. So here's how to do it practically. Write down 3 to 5 movements that you're scared to do. Maybe it's decelerating really hard. Maybe it's pivoting or cutting to one side. Maybe it's getting bumped by someone. So you want to write these down and then you rank them from 1 to 5. 1 is going to be the least scary. So at the very bottom is the least scary, means most comfortable. So let's say you're most comfortable with jumping off the box. And then number 5, which is going to be super scary, least comfortable, is going to be something like getting bumped by someone. You want to start at the very bottom. Do that movement over and over again until it becomes easier, boring. That's how you really know you're getting better. So when things get boring and easy, then you can move up the list, right? From number 1 to number 2, eventually number 3, 4, and 5. Also, this is not specific advice, so make sure you do get cleared by the professional you're working with. You want to remember that our brain runs on this protective mode. You've had trauma like surgery. You've had 12 months of rehab. Your brain is on a defensive protective mode every time you try something new that it hasn't tried in a while. Each new rep, every time you do these uncomfortable reps, your brain saves it like a new file on your computer, like a new file. So the knee was fine this time. The knee was okay this time. The knee was okay that time, right? It continually saves until it becomes super easy and doesn't perceive it as dangerous. And always go back to that ACL RSI questionnaire to see if your scores have improved. So this is how you get closer to returning to playing your sports again. Now, if you're watching this and thinking, okay, I understand everything you're saying, Josh, but how do I put this all together in a plan that makes sense for me? I made a free video training just for this process. So it's the process that I use to help people get back to running, tennis, skiing, and sports confidently. I'll link it in the description. So to summarize, there's 3 things that you can do this week to get you closer to returning to sports. Number 1 is learning how to land properly. Number 2, train both legs. And lastly, and most importantly, you want to build your confidence through reps, not just waiting more time. Write down that list, start from the bottom, and make your way up. Link to the free video training is in the description. I'll see you there.